Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I'm going to talk you through all the books that I want to read in August. How is it August already? In any case, I have a large stack of books here, the main theme of which is that I have been dying to read them because I've been feeling a little bit slumpy recently, so I'm hoping that these books will get me excited and back into reading, especially as the beginning of another school year approaches. Firstly, speaking of school, a book that I have to read before this year begins is The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros, which I have heard of for ages. I may or may not have read it in high school. I honestly can't remember if I read this one or how the Garcia girls lost their accents. But in any case, this novel tells the story of Esperanza Cordero, who is a young girl growing up in the Latino neighborhood of Chicago and trying to figure out where she belongs and coming into her own power. It sounds very nice, but the main reason that I want to read it is that I'm taking on a new position next year, and one of my new colleagues always teaches a unit about this novel in Spanish with one of his upper level classes. So I really should have read it to know what on earth he's going to be talking about. I could not find it in Spanish, so I have here an English copy. Speaking of books in Spanish and other required reading, you all know, if you have been here for a while, that I set myself a few challenges every month. One new challenge is to read one book in Spanish per month. So my Spanish book for this month will be El Capitán a la Triste by Arturo y Carlota Pérez-Reverte, which is a new discovery for me. I always thought that just Arturo wrote this series, but no, I've only just realized that Carlota also wrote it with him, and Carlota is his daughter, which I just think is very sweet that the two of them worked together on this series. This is a very successful series. It has been turned into a film, I believe, and they are also available in English if you do not have enough Spanish to read this novel in Spanish. El Capitán a la Triste is a soldier returned from Spain's wars with the Low Countries in the 1600s, and he becomes a mercenary upon his return to Madrid. And thus he gets himself embroiled in court intrigues, but also runs into various famous figures, such as the poets Francisco de Quevedo and the poet/playwright Lope de Vega, and indeed, as I vaguely remember, he runs into the young exiled future Charles II. I say I vaguely remember because I did start to read this novel, and I believe this very edition, when I was a senior in high school. After the AP Spanish exam, my teacher brought in a ton of books, or we could go out and find our own, but we had to read a novel in Spanish. And she brought in this one thinking that I would really enjoy it, and I do remember really enjoying it, but the school year ended before I had time to finish it. And I think, based on where I found this, that this is the exact edition that she loaned to me. So thank you, Senora Ross, for donating this book for me to find, and hopefully I love this book and can continue on with the series in the future. I also try to read one classic book per month at least, and so this month I have chosen The Queen of Spades and Other Stories by Alexander Pushkin. I read Eugene Onegin last year and really enjoyed it, and I really love the opera. And so when I discovered that his short story, The Queen of Spades, is also a Tchaikovsky opera, I was desperate to get my hands on the book. And so I found this copy in a local indie bookstore, and I'm very excited to read it. I don't know what any of these short stories are about, but I'm hoping that I really enjoy them. Plus, being short stories, I'm hoping that will keep me moving through the book and thus keep me feeling motivated. And finally, I try to read one nonfiction book per month. So this month I hope to read The Professor and the Madman by Simon Winchester, which is, as the cover goes on to say, a tale of murder, insanity, and the making of the Oxford English Dictionary. I adore the Oxford English Dictionary. I am very intrigued to hear how it was made and the various possible intrigues that went on while that was happening. I am also reading The Professor and the Madman because one of you, thank you Kathleen, recommended that I read it before I read The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. This is another new acquisition for me, and I have been hearing nothing but wonderful things about it from friends here on BookTube and family friends that I ran into, and so I am desperate to read it. This also chronicles some of the making of the Oxford English Dictionary, but it looks at what words were chosen and what words were left out, and the fact that a lot of the words that were left out were primarily used by women. I love linguistics, I love sociolinguistics especially, that was one of my favorite courses in university, and I love Oxford, I love the 19th century, so this book just has everything I love, and I can't wait to read it. That book makes a nice segue into the theme for the rest of the books on my TBR for August, which are historical fiction books that I have been dying to read for ages, all of which seem to have a slightly dark edge to them. This may or may not be true, but that's just the impression that I've gotten so far. So the next book that I would definitely like to read this month is The Sealed Letter by Emma Donoghue. I read Frog Music back in June and adored it, so I am now very keen to get to the rest of her work. And this is the next novel of hers that I own that is really calling to me. This is the story of two women, Helen and Fido, who have been friends for years and are living in Victorian England. And it's the true story of how their friendship dissolved into courtroom scandal in 1864. It was a well-publicized case. But apparently, according to the back, Helen helps Fido have an affair with a young army officer as she is unhappy in her current marriage. But that decision then spirals into the very public and shameful court case. And it just sounds fantastic, and I can't wait to see what Emma Donoghue does with that story. The next book I hope to read in August is The Winter Sea by Susanna Kearsley. My dear friend Amanda sent this book to me a few months ago, as she has been reading Susanna Kearsley and really enjoying her. So I have since picked up a few more Susanna Kearsleys, but this one is calling to me first. And it's the story of Carrie McClelland, who goes to Scotland to research the first Jacobite uprising, so taking place between 1708 and 1715, for her next novel. However, once she starts writing, she begins to realize that some of her ancestors were involved in that uprising, and that ancestral memory is starting to take over. So it has this ghostly, unearthly, slightly time travel-y edge to it, and it just sounds fantastic. Both Amanda and I are very into our Scottish heritage, and we both love Outlander, so while we're waiting for the next book to come out, this sounds like the perfect substitute to tide us over. No pun intended. The last two novels that I hope to read this month definitely have a dark edge to them. The first is The Animals at Lockwood Manor by Jane Healey. This was on my June TBR, but I did not get around to it. And this is the story of a young woman who is sent with the entire taxidermied animal collection from the Museum of Natural History, I believe, to Lockwood Manor in order to chaperone this collection and keep it safe from the bombings of London. However, when they get to the manor, she is both drawn to the daughter of the house, but also begins to realize that there are very strange and gothic goings-on happening around them. That just sounds fantastic. I love nothing better than a good gothic historical fiction. And finally, perhaps the strangest of the bunch, I would like to read Mary Toft or the Rabbit Queen by Dexter Palmer. This is based on the true story of Mary Toft, who claimed that she had given birth to rabbits. This was in the 1700s. And so this novel is, I believe, from the perspective of two doctors who are sent to examine the situation to determine did or could such a thing actually happen. And that just sounds fantastic. Again, that dark edge to it, possibly witchy vibes, plus the 18th century. Yes, please, thank you. So those are all of the books that I hope to read in August. Let me know down below what you think of them, or if you have any further questions of any of them. Don't tell me if you hated one of them though. Wait till my August wrap-up to talk about that with me. And let me know if you have any other suggestions that I should put on, maybe not this TBR, but certainly a future TBR. Until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye everyone.